We are now live. What's kicking, everybody? I hope we are doing extremely well. I am so happy today because I get to interview the legendary Tru Powell, and hopefully he's going to swing at any single moment now. Hopefully he is. So today we're talking to Tru all about, hey Nick, what's going on, buddy? Oscar's on board. Hey bro, what's good? How's it going? We're just going to have a little bit. Yes, there's Megan. So I'm going to speak, but people are coming in. I just got to be polite. Mr. Vincent, dude, he's hilarious. He knows my last name is Hancock, but my middle name is Vincent. So Oscar's just being funny. Oscar, by the way, is an ex-student of mine. He was the worst. All the detentions. He was the worst student in the entire world. Wasn't that right, mate? Eleanor's on board. Hey, Eleanor, how's it going? Yes, Dave's there. Hey, Dave. Just going to hang around and wait a little bit for Tru before Tru pops on. Donuts, seriously. Donuts, Nick, that's the real acronym. Donuts is the real acronym. We're just going to hold terrible student, always Oscar. You're the worst. And I had to tell your mum. I did. I really did. So we're just going to hold fire. This is just kind of like a bit of an easy going little bit because I am waiting for Tru to swing on in. I might have to cancel this. And Sassy Supply. Who's Sassy Supply? Sassy. Who are you, Sassy? What's your name? Do I call you Sassy? Were you christened Sassy? Long time no see. I'm good, and I'm very good. How are you? What is popping? I hope you're winning on this fine day, which is Monday. I want to talk a little bit to Tru about Blue Monday. I mean, why is it blue? I know it's supposed to be the most depressing day of the year, but come on, why should society dictate how we should feel on a particular day? It's a bit weird. Got my green tea with a little bit of natural honey. Tru is on board. Yes, we're on board. We're going to get cracking. Okay, so I am just going to see if I can get Tru on board. Oh no, for some reason it's not allowing me to get Tru to join, which massively sucks. Oh, hang about. I've figured it out. I have figured it out. I'm going to go live. Excited about this. I'm excited about this. Wonder what she's going to be wearing. Tru. There's my guy. Yes.
How are you? Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you, bro. You know what? I don't know if it's my internet or yours, but it's a little bit glitchy. But I'll just swap it if it's mine. It's all good.
Yours was fine before, so it might be mine. Mine's been messing up. Is that better or?
That's a tad better. That's good.
Good.
That's good, mate.
If
Say that again, bro.
If not, let me know and I can change it.
I will do, mate. I will do. If it's a little bit, mate. I'm so happy. Well, first of all, I just want to welcome everybody to the Young Life Warrior session with the amazing Tru Powell. So I don't know if anybody knows Tru. In my audience, if you are not following this guy, you must follow this absolute legend. He's an award-winning entrepreneur, personal branding and publicity coach. He has been featured on Sky News, GMB, so Good Morning Britain, BBC News, Metro as well, and also one of my personal little favourites that he did that I've only just found out recently. He's interviewed the owner of Gymshark, Mr. Ben Francis, which is, dude, amazing. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, Tru. Go for it, bro.
Thank you. Well, firstly, thank you for having me on your platform, and thank you for everybody that's in this space. I really appreciate it. But yeah, as you mentioned and gave me such an amazing introduction, my name's Tru Powell. I'm a personal branding and publicity coach, so I help entrepreneurs really promote their personal brand and get visible. I believe that if you are not visible, you're invisible by default. And I believe personal branding is one of the fundamental ingredients in having a successful business. And a lot of people really neglect promoting their personal brand for very different reasons. It might be the fear of other people thinking that they're being arrogant, or the fear of, or imposter syndrome, or, a mindset thing, or just not knowing how to. So I like to help and coach and train people in order to promote, build and monetize their personal brands. But separate and aside to that, I'm a multiple business owner, an award-winning entrepreneur. So I run a few different businesses in the entertainment and event space, which is absolutely great, and which includes a social enterprise with young people and so forth. I sit on many different boards within the Midlands. I'm a business leader within the Midlands, and I'm also a activist, for want of a better word, or a commentator or a contributor in the Midlands. So I do quite a few things, really.
Dude, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And the reason I got in touch with you is because a friend of mine, Dan Allen, he knows you. and I don't know if you know him, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna click, because when you trust a friend, you can see who they're following. And I think that you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with. I didn't make that up. But on
Mm-hmm.
social media, it's a different game. I think it's you are the average of the 20 people you follow, and I've got to make sure I'm following decent people.
Yeah, for sure, for
You know,
sure.
yeah, yeah. And dude, talking about your branding, so let's just go back a little bit and digest what you've just said. I want to creep into some layers just there. You've said that a lot of people don't know how to create their personal brand, and I think that's abundantly true. I'm still working on it. I don't really have a clue. I'm kind of got a few shiny things in the background and a few things, and I promote what I'm doing. I've got a set color, but they don't teach you that sort of stuff in school. Now, I know that you know what I do. I coach kids and I coach teachers. So I wondered if we can kind of direct the conversation around that, if that's okay. So first of all, do you think there should be a space in the national curriculum for personal branding in the realm of entrepreneurship? What do you think about that?
This is a very interesting question, because I think the whole entire education system needs an overhaul. I think we need to completely rip the curriculum as it stands apart, and introduce a new, fair, equal curriculum that treats everybody the same, and that puts everybody, or tries to put everybody on a level playing field. So that will probably answer some of the question to you. So yes, I believe that a space for business in general, and for all key ingredients in business, particularly, of course, I'm going to say personal branding, because I believe that, I believe that everybody has an ability to promote themselves and put their best foot forward, and it's like a shop window, and what do you want people to see when they look at you? And I think what people don't realize is they automatically have a personal brand. Everybody on here, if you've got a Instagram or a social media page or a Twitter handle, the moment that you post something, the moment that you say something to somebody else in a networking event, the moment that you have a website, anything like that, you're starting to build your personal brand. It's just about really being intentional about what you put into your personal brand and how you want people to see you.
Yeah, mate, that's good. I like that a lot. In fact, you've just kind of inspired an off-key question, which is, what on earth gave Tru the audacity to go down the path he's gone now? What was that quintessential focus point that, when you were to explain it, it might inspire a sixth former or a kid to think, you know what, I want to do what Tru's doing. So why is it, or how is it you're doing what you're doing now, which is, I think, living your passion and helping out and serving people? So
Yeah.
what gave you that audacity to do that, man?
So for me, I walk with the knowledge that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made by the Creator, and I have this, and I love being, I'm creative, and I have this motto, I have been creative by the Creator to be created, to be creative. So I've been created by the Creator to be creative, and that's what I live by. And I dare to dream, and I dare to live up to my fullest potential, and I don't allow naysayers or anybody else to stop my growth. And as I said in the beginning, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and for me, I just dare to live out my dream, and nothing or no one's going to stop me from doing it.
Mate, that's so powerful, and that tells me immediately that you believe in yourself. And a lot of people see that as arrogance. I don't. I went on a TV game show, and I told the producers and I told everyone there, I said, I'm going to win this. And they said, a bit arrogant. I said, I'm not, because I'm not putting you down. I just believe in myself, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to that pinnacle, get to the final, and win. I won. It was brilliant, because I believed in myself. So how is it that we can change a, let's pretend there's a kid that's on the cusp of making the decision that you made, whether it's something holding them back, like a fear, a block, parents, lifestyle, culture, whatever it may be. But let's say it is the thought of, that's a bit arrogant to do that, or I can't do that. How would you convert their brain into thinking it's self-belief?
This is a very interesting question, and I think first and foremost, it's important to understand the society that living, and it's important to understand that it isn't an equal living playing field, and there are some groups who are it's made harder for, you know, and that's facts. And I think once we understand that, and we understand the barriers, and we understand that we, you know, there are some groups who need to work harder than others, I think we're in good stead. And then once we understand that, we just continue to work and push and fight. And if it's something that we absolutely believe in, if it's something that we absolutely think we can do, and we've got passion for it, then there's nothing really that should stop us. Yes, it will be made harder, and I'm not saying that, you know, it's easy. It's not easy. Yes, it will be made harder, and yes, it is hard, but it's just about really going for it.
Yeah, that's it. Just going for it. I love it because, and what I'm alluding to is that thing that you, and have never heard this before. You said you are, what is this? You were what made?
Fearfully and wonderfully made.
Fearfully.
Yes. Yeah.
Fearfully and wonderfully made by the creator to be creative, which is wonderful, which tells me that you think and know and believe that you are unique. There's no other Tru in the world like you, and there never will be, and there never was, because you are, well, a miracle. Not just you, but everyone listening to this. I am as well, because I don't know if anyone's caught the Mel Robbins speech talking about the chance of us being here, 1 in 400 trillion, man. That's mind blowing. So I think when you recognize that, what you've said, and put it in your own terminology, you can do anything you want as long as you keep on applying yourself, because you've got to know there's new levels, new devils, and when you overcome a problem, your reward is a bigger problem, which is a bit weird.
Yeah, you encounter different problems. You know what they say, more money, more problems. I'm not saying that I've got money, people, but, you know, you new levels, new devils, and, you know, you advance, and then you encounter different problems and different things. So completely appreciate that and understand that.
Yeah, and do that. So I just want to take this moment actually just to thank you for coming on board, because you've just come on this in full like blazing confidence. You didn't ask, say, Dale, what we're talking about. You didn't. You just like, I want it, mate. I'm just going to come in and be me. Love it.
Which I usually do, but, you know, I know the stuff that you do, and I see the stuff that you do, and I know that you're not going to come and bring anything wild. No, and equally, you know, I'm the type of person that if something has been said and that's been wild, and, you know, I am quite vocal about things, and I will call you out for it. So it's all love. It's all love.
Yeah, bro, and I think you should. I think you should. If I say something that kind of like could offend other people, that's not my intention. I just might need education about it. So I don't think we're going to go there today. I'm not going to ask you most embarrassing memory or something like that. So it's all good.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, don't worry about that, bro. Yeah, so first of all, branding, I love that as well. The reason why we're doing this today as well is because I wanted to get to know you better. It's amazing, by the way. It's awesome. And I want to start shouting louder, and I need to surround myself with people like you. But secondly, I want younger people to understand their own branding. I think you're an expert. In fact, I know you're an expert in this field. I've heard you in Clubhouse talk about it. It's amazing. And again, I just want to take this time. If my audience are looking at this, you must follow Tru right now, because the stuff he comes out with is absolutely crazy. Absolute validity. You've been speaking on national TV, which is amazing. Chatting to massive leaders. In fact, his company is now a $1 billion company, Gymshark, big old Ben. So I was wondering, buddy, one question in focus around branding. I would love to meet Ben one day. It'd be brilliant. But what would you say is the one thing that he taught you, the one new thing that you didn't know that he taught you about branding, if he did?
Yeah. So I think what Ben taught me is just apart from the normal stuff around kind of it being authentic and, you know, really kind of making sure that it resonates with audiences, but it was more about kind of being really innovative and looking at ways to push the brand out. And I think he gave the example of, you know, he was one of the first to give influencers the title influencers, and I'm not saying that he gave the title, but you know, he started the influencer culture by using fitness influencers to promote the Gymshark brand. And for me, that was just a powerful moment, because not only did he influence his brand and take his brand to a different level, but it also influenced influencer culture, and gave many other people who were on platforms a space to have work and to have a job. And I just felt like that was a really, really powerful moment, because not only did he build his brand, but of course also he created opportunities for other, you know, entrepreneurs or influencers, if you like.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Did he give you any free merch?
No,
Oh,
no.
Ben! God damn
he,
it, Ben.
he didn't. He didn't.
Ben!
I,
No worries, mate. Oh no, he's an absolute legend. I've watched his story. I've seen a few of the podcasts as well, and the stuff he comes out with is brilliant. But that's really cool. So, do you think that's kind of like almost excited you, or given you other thoughts about moving your brand into a bit more, not a bigger direction, because obviously it's step by step, but maybe use the influencers to help you what you're doing?
you know what? I think with every conversation that I have on the podcast, I think it gives me inspiration, insight, motivation, and different ways of doing things. So yes, of course, you know, there were some things that Ben mentioned that would really influence kind of my next steps. But there's other things that other people have mentioned as well, and seeing what they're doing and seeing how, you know, how they've moved with their, you know, podcasts and different things. That's also been a great influence of mine, and that I would incorporate in doing what I'm doing. And I think that's the beauty of being a sponge and just looking around, seeing, you know, different, you know, seeing how other people do things, and then just kind of incorporating that, not copying, but incorporating that in your style, and doing it your way and delivering it your way.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely, mate. I love that so much. So, by the way, I'm going to respond to the audience at the end, if that's okay, everybody. So I love the fact you're replying; it's brilliant. In fact, my mom's just popped on board. So hey, mom, love you. So thank you for commenting, everybody. But for now, dude, if there was somebody, let's say a person aged between the age of, I don't know, 15 to 21, and they really wanted to create a business or be an entrepreneur, or think about their own personal branding, apart from you, obviously, but who else would you recommend them to follow, like role models in the industry?
You know, I think it's those who have really got successful businesses and whose personal brands are just absolutely popping. So firstly, like somebody like Oprah Winfrey, like her personal brand is just absolutely incredible. You know, and you know, you get your entrepreneurs based in the UK. You know, your Stephen Bartlett's, your Ben Francis, those new, what I like to call new age entrepreneurs, who are, you know, taking business in a different direction and giving a new, I guess, giving a new definition to business and how business is done. So, you know, they've gone away with the suits and the ties and the briefcases, and you know, business now comes in, you know, all different shapes, sizes, cultures, ethnicities, and I just think it's great. And I just think, look how authentic they are being, and how authentic they are to themselves, and follow those and be influenced by that. Again, you know, not copy, because you know, you see a lot online, you see a lot in this space, you see a lot of, you know, people saying, you know, entrepreneurship is a buzzword. You know, let's face it, it's a buzzword, and everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, everybody wants to be a business owner, everybody wants to be flossing the new Rolex and standing in front of a Lamborghini that they've, you know, just seen in the high street, and wants to show people that it's their car, and you know, and live this type of lifestyle that they think that entrepreneurs are living. It really isn't like that. And for most, you know, it's a difficult, you know, world. It's a difficult job. It's a hard job, and you know, you're probably not going to get to where you're going to get to in the first, you know, few years. It's about consistency. It's about discipline. It's about applying yourself, and it's about being patient and being hungry and keeping your eye on the prize, on the end goal. And I think that, you know, that's what it is. I'm not going to front. You know, I'm nowhere near where I should be. I'm not content. I'm happy of the success that I've created for myself, but I also know that there's a hell of a long way for me to go for me to be like, right, okay, Tru, you've done it. So yeah, so it's a work in progress, and nothing ever happens overnight.
It's like life, though, bro, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like it's a work in progress.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh,
like that. So yeah, so dude, what is on the horizon then for Mr. Tru Powell? What's on the horizon, man? Have you got that far? Have you got a goal?
um, I think, and it's going to sound really cliche, but you know, it's really difficult. But success for me changes quite frequently, you know, and and that's okay. So you know, at the moment, success for me is just really being happy and really being content, and you know, allowing myself to have some time to spend with the family, with the wife, with the kids. Like that's just the ultimate like end goal happiness for me, because but right now I can't say that I'm afforded to do that right now. It's a struggle. It's a struggle to find that time with the kids. It's a struggle to find that time with with Tara, my wife. It's just a struggle. So that's what I'm actively working on now. I need to create more space and time for the people who really matter.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool actually that you said struggle, because if you were to type that into Google, it comes up with breaking free of old restraints. So it's almost like you're getting away from that to become something new, and it's really cool that you've almost established your happiness area around your family, around those
Mm-hmm.
you love. Because what's the point otherwise? And
Mm-hmm.
this is a little bit random. So if you could, as a father, um, what would you say? And you don't have to name your kids because I don't want to shame the others. But if one kid or all of them, what would you say you've learned? What lesson would you say your children have actually taught you as a father? Put you on the spot here, bro. Sorry, man.
Patience.
No way.
All patience is the biggest lesson that they've taught me. When it comes to my kids, I have to have so much patience with them. Like when I when I was homeschooling, oh my, I don't even like calling it homeschool because this isn't a home. I mean, this isn't a school, my home, and I'm not a teacher. But when I was homeschooling, um, patience was like you don't understand how much patience I had to exercise, how many times I had to leave the room and breathe and come back in, because yeah, I absolutely love them to bits.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's difficult.
dude. So is that transferred over to your business and how
Yeah,
you operate these?
100%. And how and every lesson that I learn, in the house or elsewhere is transferred to different aspects of my life, because I just believe that it takes life lessons, and knowledge is power and knowledge is king. And if you incorporate all that you've learnt from different spaces, then you're only going to complement what you've got and what you're working towards.
Yeah, dude, I love that, because it's like you said, knowledge is power. But then what you said after that was you incorporate it, because if you don't incorporate the knowledge, what's the point in having it? So as long as you, like you said,
Exactly. So
yeah,
yeah, I love it. I love it.
yeah,
I love
that's
learning and
cool.
experimenting, and I think once you get a good combination of the two, then you'll do well. Like learning, implementing. There's no point in learning. You see all these people with all buying all these books and reading all these books, and they're not actually self-help books, they're shelf-help books, because you're just reading them and you're not implementing. But when I read books, I take a while to read a book. People can get through dozens and dozens of books a year. I probably on one book for 2 months, because I like to take my time with it. I'm not one of those quick readers. I don't do it for, oh, look at me, I've read all these books, blah, blah, blah. I take my time and I like to absorb. I like to have my highlights. I like to write things down that resonate with me, particularly if I'm reading a self-help book. I like to write things down that resonate with me. And then I like to write down how I can incorporate that practice in what I'm doing, whether it's business, whether it's parenting, whether it's being a friend, a colleague, or anything like that. I like to, specifically write down how I can implement what I have just read or parts what I've just read. And I think that's how you grow and that's how you move, you know, learning, implementing, learning, implementing. You never just stops at learning, because then it becomes, you know, self-help as opposed to self-help.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true, that is. And to be fair, I'm a bit guilty of that, mate. I'm a bit guilty of that. I've got loads of books on the shelves, and I've probably only read around about what 15%, 20% of them, which is not cricket. It's not good.
Wow.
But I'm a slow reader, and I'm okay with that because I like to apply it. Like you say, you got to apply
Good.
it. What's the point?
Good.
It's just a waste of,
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
just a big fat waste of time with that. Dude, there was a
Yeah.
picture of you ages ago on your, and I wanted to talk to you about this a while ago, but there was you on a billboard. Dude, that's awesome. But and what I liked the most about that was you had your kids there, and it's
Mm,
just like, wow, that's so special. I mean,
mm,
for them to see their pops
yeah.
making
Yeah.
movements, dude,
Yeah.
how did that feel?
That, you know what? It's moments like that that I believe I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, and
Mm,
that's, you know, those are the rewards of, you know, the job that I'm doing. Seeing my kids' faces light up when, you know, Daddy walks in the room, or, you know, or when they see Daddy on the TV, or,
mm,
you know, when they go to school and the teachers are like, oh, you know, we've just saw, you know, your dad here, and he said amazing stuff, and those are the rewards of what I do. You know, I win loads of awards, and, you know, I get loads of awards and accolades, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. And, you know, there are these shiny things that sits on your mantelpiece, but never confuse the two between awards and rewards. And it's the rewards of what I do that really resonate with me, and that in some ways become my why. And I have to say that's probably one of the greatest moments of 2021. Just, and not the fact that I had a billboard, because I think anybody can have a billboard. Like, that's just, it's easy. You know, you can have a billboard and that's easy to do. But the fact that the kids saw the billboard, and then their reaction to seeing their dad on a billboard would live with me forever and ever, because it was just one of those authentic, pure moments where, and, you know, and your own, and, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it was only like 3 seconds of it that was captured on film, but you don't even see their faces, but you heard the excitement in their voices, and you heard the excitement when they seen it, and that was just incredible for me. It was actually, it was a moving moment, really, because it's why I do what I do. To be honest, for them.
dude, that's amazing. And I was going to ask you the why, but you just given it. You're just giving
Mm,
your why. You're
yeah,
just giving your why. I bet you felt their energy as well, didn't you?
yeah, of course. I
Yeah,
felt it all throughout the 3 second video.
yeah.
um, and it was just incredible. It was just really a special moment.
Mm, mate, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I've got so many questions, but I want to be respectful of your time, buddy.
You know,
So I'm
ask
gonna.
him. All
Is
right
that
for it.
okay?
Yeah,
So,
more
so,
right.
so I was wondering. Let's pretend that Parliament said, "Hey, Tru, I need you to go in and create a syllabus and maybe teach some lessons about branding to a bunch of, I don't know, year 10 kids, so they can go out there." I know I've put you on the spot because I don't know if you've got a step by step or like a little acronym or something about like how to kind of brand yourself or how to create your own first personal brand. It's you, so you probably do. But I just wondered if you had like what would be the 5 steps, or what would be 5 key points, or whatever that can help them do that if you've got it.
Yeah. So I think this is an interesting question, because firstly, I don't think that the government will come to me for anything, because yeah, yeah. So but you know, let's say for argument's sake that, you know, your man BJ thought he'll come to me and holler at your boy and ask me to go into the school. So you know, the first thing would always be review. So where does your brand sit now?
Yeah.
So, you know, and you could do that by Googling yourself. You could do that by doing a 360 degree and asking people what they think of you. You could do that quite simply by logging on Instagram and saying to be asking a question in your stories, you know, what do you know me for? And getting people to respond to that, you know, but
Mm,
it's always good to understand how people see you. And then once you've done that, It really then is about, do you like what you see? If you don't like what you see, then what are you going to change and how are you going to change it? And then you can change it in different ways. If you want to be seen as something, then you using different facets of building your personal brand to do that. So, if you want to be known as a leader, then are you going to nominate yourself to be a prefect in the school or something like that? Somebody that leads, the school. And are you going to put yourself forward in that type of position? Or if you want to be somebody, you want to be known for somebody who helps out, how are you going to show that in the way that you do things? Are you going to stay behind and tidy up the classroom, put away the chairs? How are you going to be seen or known for a person that's quite giving and loving and caring? And it really is looking at, what do you want to be known for, but how are you going to demonstrate that? How are you going to exercise that, through what platforms, through what mediums? And that would be the kind of process. So I look at all the mediums in the schools, or methods, or however you want to, whatever you want to call them, that the school has to offer. And then I'd be like, well, if you did this, what do you think you'll be known for? Or if you did this, what do you think you'll be known for? And kind of explore it that way.
Dude, that's epic. So literally, you just give me 5 steps, and I asked for 5 steps as well. So number 1, you find out who you are. Number 2, like. Do you like you? If not, do you like what you do? Change it. If you don't. Number 3, leadership.
Yeah.
Number 4, service. So if you are providing a service, are you being seen to do that service? Maybe even are you an expert in that area as well? You know more than the average Joe. And number 5 is, what platform you're gonna go on. Sound.
Yeah.
Boom. Dude, love it. That's epic. Yeah. That's absolutely epic. So the last one, buddy, last question, because I know you're an active guy and I really respect and appreciate your time, is number 10 question. Probably have been hammering you with questions and you've been so good at just knocking them back at me. But the last one is, if you were to have a magic wand and you were to put a sentence in every single person's head on the planet, all like 8 billion of us, or however many there are, if you were to put one sentence in every single person's head that would help them find success or be themselves or whatever it may be, what would that sentence be? And I don't tell people that I'm going to ask this question because I like them to think on the spot. Cordell took ages to answer, by the way, just saying.
I do think I am, because what I don't want to do is treat us as though we're homogenous and that it's an equal level playing field, and that we can all achieve the same things if we work hard. I think that rhetoric is quite dangerous.
Okay.
I need to think around, and it might be something under the lines of, and bear with me because I'm thinking aloud, so bear with me. So it might be something under the lines of, despite your background, be whether you're a group that's oppressed in any way, you can still achieve. It's quite. Let me have a think about this question, actually, because I don't want to.
Dude, I love the fact the longer it takes, the more intricate it's going to be.
Yeah,
I love it. I mean, some people kind of already know it, but if they say it off the cuff, sometimes it tends to be from somebody else. So ages ago, it's just like, oh, you can only have a breakthrough if you have a breakdown. You can only have a breakthrough if you have a breakdown. And I know full well that's from Tony Robbins, and they didn't come up with that. So you're making it organic, which is cool.
Yeah. So my sentence will be, something along the lines of use your past experiences, your trauma, to use it as fuel to be the best version of yourself. I think.
Love it.
Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Just aspire to be the best version of yourself. And even if you've gone through anything that's, disadvantages you in any way, or oppresses you in any way, you use that, you use that trauma, and try and use it as fuel to be the best version of you. I think that would be my take on it.
I love that, because you've made it all about the individual. You haven't been generic. You've been you're making it about their own experiences, to give them their own fuel, to help them create their own betterment for themselves.
And no matter what that is, some people might have the best version of themselves might be working at McDonald's, and there's no judgment with that. But if that's for themselves, that is for themselves, and it's about understanding what success, and we go back full circle to what we said at the beginning. It's understanding what success means to you, and if success means working at McDonald's, then that is the better version of yourself, and that's okay. But I think it's all individual to each different person, so you can't define what success means to them.
You can't, mate. You can't. So my success could be, I don't know, I want to impact 1 million kids and have £1 million. To other people, it could just be, do you know what? Today, I want to get out of bed and be happy about it. Doesn't matter. It's all different, all unique. We're all rare. There's no one like us, and I think that's really cool. You kind of highlighted the individuality of everybody on this planet, and I love that. I love that so much. Because you're a dad, what values would you install in your kids? In fact, one. You got to pick one. I'm being mean. What one value would you want to install in your kid's brain? One value.
I think whether this is a value or not, it's something that I'm living by this year, and it's something that I'm teaching my kids this year. And it's just about being unapologetic. And what I mean by that is being unapologetic about who you are, about what oppresses you, the stuff that oppresses you, your race, your gender, your sexuality, your anything that you might find, people might find wild. Be unapologetic about that, and be unapologetic about what you bring to certain spaces. My kids were once in a space that was really not good for them. They were in a space that really didn't respect who they were as people, who they were as black boys. They didn't respect what they brought to that space, and as a result treated them quite badly. And for me, it's about rebuilding, and it's about being unapologetic about who you are and what you bring to certain spaces. And I'm following by that myself. I'll go to certain spaces and I'm the only black person in the room. Hey ho, that's cool. But guess what? I might be the only black person in the room, but I'm going to be unapologetic about what I bring to that space, the difference that I bring to the space, the diversity of thought that I bring to that space, and all of the greatness of being fearfully and wonderfully made that I'm going to bring to that space. And if you don't like it, it's tough, but I'm going to be unapologetic about that. And I think that's the one value that I'm instilling in my kids. It's no longer being palatable. It's no longer, kind of, for want of a better word, trying to kind of guise your identity because, people might not respect it or accept it or want it. If the people want it, then that's for them. And if they don't want it, then that's a them problem and not an us problem. And that is the key thing. And it's only when we start to do that, we're going to start to live our true, authentic selves. And then we're going to start seeing the rewards.
Dude, that's powerful. I've just written down a sentence. Just saying, I got all excited. So I apologise for not being present, buddy. But that was amazing. Bring diversity of thought. That's what I thought of just then with you. You said that. I didn't. I just copied you.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, I didn't know you said it. And I just fell in love with that sentence. Bring diversity of thought, because that tells you you're being unique. You're being unapologetically yourself. If you're being you, if you show up as yourself and you're not trying to fit into a category or a box or pretend to be someone you're not, then, and people don't like it, well, clearly that's their problem. And maybe they feel threatened.
And I think that this is the thing, and you know, it's always difficult for me to have these conversations and not bring or not introduce the kind of, you know, white supremacist patriarchy. It really is difficult for me to have these conversations and not bring that into the mix, because structurally and systemically, you know, spaces, a lot of spaces are not created or structured or even safe for, you know, black people, black boys, black girls, black women, black men, or, you know, people of color in general. But specifically for this conversation, I'm going to name black because they're my lived experiences. And I think it's really, really important that when we are having these conversations around diversity and diversity of thought, we recognize and acknowledge that actually systemically these spaces haven't been created to benefit people of color. Therefore, we have to have an overhaul and break them down and bring those that diversity of thought into these spaces so they can change. And that's why you'll always see me bang on about diversity and inclusion and equality, because, you know, I believe that there's a long way for us to go, and you know, in this entrepreneurship realm, you know, again, there's a lot of, you know, patriarchy, there's a lot of misogyny, there's a lot of, you know, racism, and it's about just constantly speaking about those things and bringing it to the forum and having that dialogue.
Yeah, dude, and I think that's so vital. And I was almost, I wouldn't say accidentally arrogant, or I wouldn't, definitely not dismissive, but unaware. I say arrogantly unaware. And there was a boy about last year that another boy said, "Oh, I don't want to touch that black monkey," and I was just like,
wow,
like that. And this is the point. I was unaware because I did not know that still happened. I mean, how arrogant is that from me? And I was just like, Jesus God, I've got to speak about it. I've got to interview more people. I've got to speak to more people. I've got to raise awareness, because and you know, for what? Because this boy was only 7 years old. That's learned behaviour. He didn't come out of the womb like that. That's learned behaviour, and that's what needs to stop.
I think what it is because they're not your lived experiences, you won't be privy to it, and it's only when people speak on their experiences that you become. But you know, let's be real. You know, the institution, you know, the whole educational institution is fueled by racism, and it's you know, my boys, you know, they encountered 22 incidents of racism before they moved schools, you know, and those are just recorded, mind, you know.
Shouldn't even one.
Yeah, they probably encountered a lot more, and you know, I can bet my bottom dollar that they did, and it's because the institution of education is racist, and you know, it's not, particularly when you are in a space like when you're in a predominantly white school, it's not safe for black children. It's not safe, particularly the school that we went to, and it really is about, like, as you did, speaking up about it and making people aware that, you know, it's not something that only happened in the 70s stroke 80s stroke maybe 90s. It still very much happens to this day, and we have to be actively anti-racist, particularly when it comes to the kids. And that's why I always speak about racism in schools, because I think it's a huge problem that Ofsted really don't care about. They absolutely don't care about racism in schools, and they don't care about children of colour in schools, because if they did, then they would have made it mandatory for every school to have an anti-racism policy, and they haven't. So there's lots of different things where you know, when it comes to schools, when it comes to education, and when it comes to equality, in the UK, there's a long way for us to go. A long way for us to go.
And I feel I did a diversity talk as a white man, and I felt a bit of an imposter. But I didn't know how else to raise awareness of it. You know, it's just because I'm working with a boy at the moment who's Hindu, and he still gets called he gets called the P word. And
Wow.
like, it frigging blows my mind. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think that, and this is the thing, and I love the fact that the school who you was speaking to
mm,
actually created a space for the child, the victim, to have work done with them, because
mm,
often, particularly when it's black children, the black children are criminalized, the black children are seen, the black children are adultified, and even when they're the victim, they're also they're also the criminals simultaneously, because they're never afforded the work that's being done with the perpetrator. They're never afforded that type of level of effort and work, or it's
mm.
very, very rare. And I just think it's important that we start seeing, you know, black children as victims. And you know, I'm really pleased that this conversation has kind of gone in this
Yeah,
way.
mate.
It's important that we have this type of dialogue, because black children in schools, they're in danger. You know, they're in danger, and people do not understand the trauma of encountering racism and having a racist episode, or even the microaggressions. You know, it's really, really sad. It's really, really sad, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation.
Yeah, mate, I am as well. In fact, let's divert the conversation around to think what do you think schools should be doing right now about that?
So first and foremost, every school, whether it's mandated from Ofsted or not, should have an anti-racism policy,
Yeah,
and
100%.
in that policy, it should detail, you know, what the consequences are for racism, because it's actually a hate crime, you know, and it will be reported to the police. You'll be suspended. You'll be this, whatever the sanction is. It should detail that, but then it should also detail the work that it's going to do with the perpetrator, but also the work with the victim. So what kind of support is the victim going to have? And then just the process of, you know, who do they inform? Do they inform local authority? If it's a state school, do they inform the police? So, and also the training that the teaching staff will receive, because a lot of the time when racism occurs in schools where the predominantly teaching staff are white, they don't know how to handle it. They're not trained in that area. They don't know how to handle the victim, or they don't know how to handle the perpetrator. So I think it's really important that if they don't know, then they get trained. They get
Mm,
trained in that area. But unless they're forced to do it, then we unless they're forced to do that type of thing, then they just won't do it, unless they're actively anti-racist. And my thing is, why wait? You know, what if they're not going to do it on their own free will? Then they have to be forced to do it. They have to be mandated, and it has
mm,
to be done at policy level. And if it's not done so people are held to account. And if it's not done at policy level, then it's not treated with the severity that it deserves.
mm. And as well as that, mate, I think parents need to be educated as well of the perpetrator. I think the parents need to have some form of education or some form of like meeting with the police or whoever it may be, because like we know it's all, no one's born racist, are they?
Can
It's
I
it's learned.
can I be blunt and honest with you? Forget
Yeah,
the
man.
parents. I'm not interested in the parents. The parents have no
Oh,
legal obligation around protecting and safeguarding the children, when they're in the school setting. The school has. Now, a lot of the time, the parents can absolutely be racist as hell when they go home, and there's nothing that's going to regulate them from saying any wild stuff or doing any wild stuff in the house, whether they're educated or not. And it, in some cases, will be a waste of resource. However, when it
right.
comes to schooling, and when it comes to the kids, and when it comes to the children, the support should be offered to the victim and also the perpetrator. Um, there was incidences where they were saying, "Oh, we're going to work with the perpetrator's family and him," and I wasn't interested in that, because a lot of the time the perpetrator's family, the racism is so deep rooted in
The
or
waste of time.
in their DNA that the support that the school would offer them is a waste of time. It's not going to do anything. Whereas with the kids, there's a moral obligation to do that because they're in the school. And I think that's where the work should start. I'm not saying discount the parents, fine if you want to do some work with them, but they're not really my priority, to be honest. My priority would always be the actual perpetrator. And by that, I mean what sanctions given to them. And then the children, the victims.
I think, yeah, I agree, but disagree at the same time. I think this is only from my personal experience. With a child is like a triangle. When in a school setting, a child is a triangle. At the top is the teachers. They need to make sure they're following the policies. And then I strongly believe that professionals outside of the curriculum should come in and do talks or workshops with the whole of the community of the school, and the parents as well. It could be a waste of time, but I at least a letter, at least like a look. This is what we're talking about. It's really important. This is our subject, and we're going to have this talk. But there needs to be a method of it being sustained over a long period of time, just to drip it in their head. Because
I
don't know.
The parents soon find out when their child's been suspended or on a detention or has gone home or something's happened. Like that, the parents would soon find out. But I think, and this is just my experience, and there's no right or wrong to this. Well, there is, but these are just my this is perception.
Yeah,
I'm not into wasting time on racist parents. Like you've had, particularly now, we're in 2022. Anything that happened prior to George Floyd, you can get away with it. But now in 2022, when we've had George Floyd, we've had all the Black Lives Matter protest, and all of this listening and learning, which I think now should actually start. We should actually be implementing now. If you still don't know now, as a grown ass adult, if you still don't know now, then I ain't wasting my time with you. I'm not wasting my energy or time with you because you don't want to know. And I think that's kind of where I'm coming from. School is different. They might have a moral obligation to, speak with the parents, educate the parents as well as a child. Fair play, but I just wouldn't be wasting my time on them because it's 2022. Like, what are you, a moron? Like, you still can't hold those views, and if you do, that's a you problem, and that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Well, so definitely agree with that. If you don't know by now, then you're ignorant to it, and it's a choice. You're choosing to be that way.
Yeah.
With the amount of publicity that this has rightfully got, you're choosing to be that way. I think I was coming from the point of view that there are some parents out there which are not racist, and if their kid was ever racist, they will batter them, like go to town, like from a white background. I know that I experienced that when I was a teacher in, where was I? In Nuneaton. And I experienced that, and I informed them. I just told the parents, I'm going to ring your parents. I'm going to ring. Of course, I'm going to ring your parents because this is not on. It's the least I can do, and I did. And then they were fuming. They were absolutely fuming. So I'm very happy in myself that I did that. I'm very happy that I did do that because the parents weren't racist, but he was following peer groups of,
and I love that. And I think informing and working with, I think, are two different things. I think informing, there is a duty and there's an obligation. You must inform. But I think if you're going to waste resource when that resource could be given to the actual victims, then I just have a different take on, and probably because that's been fueled by my experiences of dealing with parents who are racist, and seeing them get a lot of support and work when my child, who's the victim, hasn't even been asked if he's okay. And I think that's probably where it's fueled from. So please, it's not indicative of how I think everything should be ran. It's just my experiences, and perhaps that's probably where it's fueled from. Where I just thought, it's a wasted resource when it could actually be given to somebody who needs it.
Yeah, and by the way, dude, I definitely rang the victims' parents as well.
Oh, good.
I definitely did that. I forgot to. Yeah, so I rang obviously both parents and said, "This is what's happened. Everything's okay. I just want to let you know that I'm going to do it this way. If you want to take further action, you
Yeah.
have every right to, and I would not stop you at all. And let me know how I can help you press charges or do what it is you want to do. I'll be there, and I keep an extra close watch on this on both kids to make sure it doesn't happen again." And they turned out to be mates in the end. It took a while, but they they turned out to be mates.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, we've only got 4 minutes left, but I want your help with this. I've heard you say victim, and I don't know if this is an arrogant perspective from my point of view, but I don't like, again, need your help with this. I don't like calling a child a victim through any circumstance, because it gets in their head that they are a victim. And I don't know, maybe I've got a negative connotation because I was severely bullied when I was younger. And I just thought myself as a victim, and I was just getting suppressed down. I was made to eat spit burgers, had to stand in dog poo with barefoot, had to be tackled by the whole rugby team before I was allowed food by the kids. And because I was in a victim mindset. So I don't want to come across as like, brash or anything, but what do you agree with that?
I think with that,
I don't want to say.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're trying to say, but I think it's very nuanced, and I think you have to approach it with a nuanced approach, particularly when you're speaking about different groups and different communities.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak on the Black community, and I'm not saying it for all Black kids or all. I'm just going to speak on my experiences and what I've seen. A lot of the time, when it comes to the Black community, they're never seen as victims. They're never seen as vulnerable. They're always seen as strong and fearful. And even if we just look at the proportion of death rates in the NHS when it comes to Black women having their babies, it's not because of their genetics or anything like that. It's because when they are giving birth, if they're saying something hurts, they're just being regarded as strong and not vulnerable and not listened to, and that's just one example. So when it comes to Black children, I believe that they should be seen as victims, particularly when they've encountered racism at any kind of level, because that's what they are. A lot of the time, Black children are criminalized. They're adultified. They're seen as strong. They're seen as criminals. They're not seen as a child. They're not seen as a boy, a girl, or a victim. And that is one of the fundamental reasons as to why, when something does happen, Black kids are, 5 times more likely to be kicked out of school, because they're adultified and they're seen as criminals, and they're never ever seen as victims, or seen as children. So I believe that when it comes to this discussion, I completely agree in terms of what you're saying about having that victim mindset, and that it in some cases it's not good for children. But when it comes to a discussion around this, I think we must, if something has happened that's caused significant trauma or harm, we must see those children as victims, because that's what they are. But we must, of course, try and strike that balance and not allow them to be in that victimhood mindset. So maybe there's a discussion around how we could treat them as victims, but them not see themselves or them see as a passing moment, or not victims forever. And maybe there's a discussion around that, because I can see what you're talking about, but it's just quite difficult for us to strike that fine balance. But I think when it comes to mine, if they've gone through something, then I'm definitely going to treat them as the victims that they are, because nobody else is going to.
You've just hit. By the way, I'm really glad we're having this conversation, because I've learned something literally right now with that conversation you just had, and I'm glad I asked this question. And I'm going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to be honest. When I was teaching, virtually every single Black child that was under my wing I personally, I'm sorry, perceived them as being hard. I perceived them as being just like, like, oh, come on, so, that, and just like, I'm not going to. But there was this one time when I created a refocus unit for all kids that were going through social emotional difficulties. One boy, Cody, I'm going to say his name's Cody, and he broke down in front. He was mixed race. He was broke down me in front of me one day because the pressure of being too hard was just too much, and I felt so. I had to. I didn't. I don't know why I had to be strong, but I felt like I had to be a rock for him. Maybe that was the wrong thing to do. I don't really know, but yes, I see it. What you've just said, because of my own perception, society, or culture, or social media, or media, whatever it is, has put into my own head that the majority, if not all, of black people, black kids, have got an air of swag and they're hard, when they're vulnerable people as well. They're allowed to be vulnerable. They're allowed to reach out. They're allowed to do that. So you saying that, seeing them as a victim, yeah, they are. Of course they are. They're a victim based on someone else's pathetic standards and metrics that are false and untrue. So how about we just treat them as freaking human beings and just allow them that vulnerable space, mate? Thank you for that.
And the
I didn't know.
problem, and you have, but the problem with that is that it's a damaging rhetoric, and I'm talking
Yes.
not damaging, psychologically, but physically. You could you could be. I remember being at secondary school, and and it was a really racist secondary school. Really, really racist, really bad in the 90s, and I remember, everyone saying that me and my brother was going to get jumped and stuff. And, and I remember going to the head teacher saying, look, the waiting outside, we need to have this conversation. You need to do something. And the head was like, no, you're fine. Look at you, all these microaggressions, look, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Go on home as normal. And that day, I remember both my brother and I got jumped from about 50 white boys, wild. But the point is that had I have been a white, blonde hair, blue eyed girl, I would have been escorted home. There's no way they would have let me there. But when it comes to a black boy, we were giving the kind of the reputation that we must be hard. And anybody that knows me knows I'm flamboyant, I'm quite delicate, I don't live up to the standards of what a man should be, all this toxic masculinity bullshit. Like, I am who I am, like it or not. I'm vulnerable. If I want to cry, I'll cry. If I want to show my emotions, I will do that. And I think the standard that black boys have to live up to in school, they play up to it. Oh, we've got to be the hardest. We've got to be the toughest in the school. I remember there's only like 3 other black boys in my year, and one of the black boys had to be the toughest in the year. One of them, every single year group, there was a black boy who was the hardest in the year, because they were given this hysteria and they were given this reputation that they had to live up to. And it's a crying shame that we don't afford the space for black boys to be vulnerable, or to be victims, or to be upset, or to be soft, quote unquote. We don't afford that space in the schooling system for that to happen. And that's not just because of the peers. It's teaching staff, it's Ofsted, it's top down, never bottom up. It comes, those white supremacists, misogynistic rules are top down, and it just filters right down to these kids, and even the black kids themselves feel that they have to live up to that. And it's it's a crying shame. It is a crying shame.
I wonder how we can stop that then, or just give them that counsel, that kind of like ease the pressure. You don't have to be like this. I don't know how. Is it cultural? Is it systemic? What is it?
It's a bit of everything, but it's about providing that space for them to be vulnerable, and it's about providing that. And it's so intersectional, because not only are you tackling the racial aspects, but you're also tackling the gender aspect as well, and this idea of being a strong black man or boy, having to fight these ideologies on. And so it's about creating spaces where black boys can be vulnerable and be okay with that, and they can you know, cry and show a softer side to them, and that being seen as cool. So it really is challenging this toxic masculinity, and trying to push for a better way of presenting the black male, or the black boy in schools, and that's why I always say, you know, it's okay to be a victim. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be vulnerable, because it's a dangerous rhetoric to try and live up to the standard of what society expects, particularly when you're criminalized, adultified, and have to live up to that. It's just it's unattainable.
It's quite, well, it's not quite, so it's very toxic to think the opposite of that. So what I was just saying just there, thinking, don't call yourself a victim, because that means that they're just going to keep on doing it to you. You know, don't do that. You just got to allow that space. And I think how we can at least make a tiny change is this, like you've now, what you've given me is more insight, a different perspective, a powerful perspective that I'm going to use when I go into schools. And if anyone comes up to me and speaks to me, in fact, what I might do is just offer some little workshops just for free for anyone that wants to come along, or maybe just focus just for boys. So these conversations need to happen, and also people need to see you, who you are, speaking like this, changing that mindset, changing that culture, offering a different light in the brain to make kids think that I don't have to be the hard black boy at the top of the school, like beating the pack. I don't have to be. I can show my emotion. I can be vulnerable.
It was, you know what, my son, he's 11 now, and we was in a meeting. He'd done something silly at school, at this new school that, you know, that in name calling, you know, the usual blah blah blah. And so the teacher called me in and just having a little conversation about it. And I'm asking him, what happened, blah, blah, blah. What was you thinking about? Like, what was going on? And he was just like, I don't know, Daddy. Like, I don't know. I was just thinking, I don't know. And we left the space that we were in. And I remember being in the car and speaking to him, and he just broke down and in tears. And then he was telling me that, he had a nightmare and was thinking about all this stuff that's, all this other traumatic stuff that happened previously. And I said to him, well, why didn't you do that in the school? Like, why did you just leave it like blank face? And it was like, because I didn't think I was allowed to. I didn't think that, they would want to see me speak like this and blah blah blah. And I was like, this is horrendous. Like, you didn't feel that this space was safe enough for you to be vulnerable and for you to say everything that was on your mind. You bottled all of this in until you felt that there was a safe space for you to disclose and open up. And I was like, this is how mental health, particularly when it comes to this is how it affects boys really badly, because they're made to feel that they can't open up in certain spaces, and they can't be vulnerable. And it's just really, 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 really sad, because had I have not been a father that understands mental health, understands toxic masculinity, and understands how damaging things like that could be, and afford, my boy child, that space to be vulnerable, then he would have bottled all of that in. So there's no space at school, there's no space at home, there's no space for anything for him to really be vulnerable and emotional and be a victim. And who knows what that would have done to his mental health. And I think, let's face it, there isn't a lot of men, particularly traditionally, who have views about men speaking and opening up. And because I know that my father saying, well, I'm not even going to go into that, but, I certainly didn't have a space where I could be vulnerable around other men. And I think it's so important that in schools, if we can't do it at home, if there's not space at home for where people are getting that from men, it has to happen in school. There has to be a space where they can be vulnerable. There has to be a space where they can be be victims and be open and share and cry and laugh and have a space where they can get whatever is on their emotions off their chest, because it's going to be, well, we could see what's happening now. It's detrimental to mental health, and we could see it's happening in front of our eyes. You know, men are really, really dying because they're keeping everything inside, and it's all learned from a very young age.
Yeah. Gee. Yeah, you've massively hit on something. It's almost like stopping a kid from laughing or being happy, because that's an emotion. Why are we blocking sadness? Why are we not providing a safe arena for children to be real, not even vulnerable, be real? You know, I want to cry. I feel unhappy. I got called this. He hit me. She said this to me. You just need that space, just to, geez.
Powerful. Yeah.
True. I feel like I could talk to you all day about this. And I'm not even laughing. Oh, I am, but I'm being serious. It's so important. It's so important.
But you know what? I think we started a dialogue, and we can certainly, you know, we can have a part 2 to this conversation. And you know, we can look into it, you know, a little bit more. But I think, particularly for you in the space that you're in, I just think it's really important that we have these real conversations. And sometimes, you know, conversations, and I know we didn't plan to speak about this, but sometimes conversations have a way to organically moving into an area or a field where that we're both passionate about, and we just have to allow that conversation to happen, which I'm glad that it did.
Well, I'm glad that it did, because I will never know what racism is. I will never know what that is. I'll know the definition, and I can type it on Google, and I can sit there and be really angry when I see it, but I'll never know what it feels like. So the best thing I can do is just talk about it with people. That's it. And just try and be real and nurture people that are going through that. The victim now, I'm going to say it, the victims now, because now I understand. Genuinely true, I understand.
Good.
That you said victim, I get it now. I get it. It's so weird. And these conversations are going to help, because now all these people that have seen this are going to be thinking, oh yeah, okay, cool. And the conversation that I'm going to have with this boy next weekend is going to spread through the family. So,
good.
Mate, I'm so happy it went this way.
Yeah, me too. Really good. I mean, we've been speaking for an hour and 15 almost. So it's only meant to be a half an hour segment. So yeah, it's good. It's
well,
good.
bro, maybe we could do a clubhouse room or something, like in a distant future or something, if you're up for that.
Absolutely. That's fine.
Yeah, and just before we do close, everyone that's following me, definitely, I sound like I'm begging it, but it will help you out. Tru, follow his journey, follow his adventure. Mate, before we do close, is there anything you want to promote, anything you're doing now, any services? Where can we find you? What can we do?
Yeah, if you want to, guys, you can trupowell.com. That's true without the E, TRUPOWELL.com. All things personal branding, publicity. If you're an entrepreneur and you need help and support with getting yourself visible, then please do contact me, and I'll be happy to help support you in any which way. I do have a group coaching program kicking off on the 3rd of February. So if anybody wants to jump on that, there are only a few spaces left on that program. But just DM me the word spotlight, and I would get you the details for that.
Spotlight. Thank you. That was legendary, bro. So everybody that's following me, definitely follow Tru without the E. Make sure, if you want to be visible and not be invisible, then follow this guy, because he brings the power. He brings the power.
Well,
amen, bro.
Thank you for
Dude, I appreciate you being kind of like understanding of me and my head, and you delivered that so confidently and professionally, and just you really made me feel comfortable. Do you know what, mate? You made me feel really comfortable speaking about that today, and that's sometimes I feel uncomfortable because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but you just made me feel comfortable, mate. So, dude, that means the world to me.
Not everyone says that about me, so I'm glad that you said it today. But yeah, no,
mate, I'm going to promote that, bro. So yeah, everyone listen, nice you following this absolute legend. Thank you so much for everyone that's conversated today. Sorry we didn't get through all the chat, do forgive me. Tru is a very active man. Make sure if you do want that next level, you check out his program. Check him out on Instagram. You can follow him. Make sure you engage with him. Because he's going to get you to that next level, that next point in your life, if that's what you want, if that's the area you want to grow in, if you want to take your brand seriously, Tru's the man.
Amen. Thank you
Sweet.
so much.
Cheers, brother. I appreciate it. Mate, I appreciate it so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bro. Take care, mate. See you later, everybody.